Folks, I haven't been making an awful lot of videos. I've had a few issues, but I've tried to pop out a couple here and there as you know I had the energy in order to do so. But I just had to sit down and gather myself to put this particular video out because what's going on right now is troubling. And I'm just hoping that we as a country will be able to survive intact over the next 2 to 4 years. Now, you may be listening to the news and hearing about the stock market hitting record highs and Wall Street just loving it. And that is true. And it's true for a bunch of reasons, but let me ask you this. How many of you out there are really going to appreciably benefit from the jump in the stock market? Like you, most people, and I include myself, though I will benefit a bit from the increase in the stock market. Most Americans really don't have a ton of money invested in the stock market. It's basically people who are of sufficient means or working jobs that contribute or allow them to have 401ks that are invested in the market. A lot of those people are making out pretty well right now. Now, you know, the market goes up and down, but, you know, and I'm just hoping that the market, when it stabilizes, because it's not stable right now, this is a bull market. It's jumping up based on several things, principal of which is Mr. Trump's cabinet, and it's full of Goldman Sachs people, and they're going to look out for themselves and their buddies, and they're also going to put forth programs or actions that are going to benefit them later on. Now, it is true that they have quote-unquote signed an agreement not to be lobbyists or whatever. They don't have to be lobbyists. They can go right back in to these companies, get huge paychecks, and pat themselves on the back, and all of their buddies are going to pat them on the back, and bonuses are going to abound. So that's them. That's not you or me. We don't have that ability. But I want to point out to you just the simple facts of what's really going on here. Now, Donald Trump the other evening talked about the economy, and he's got to get it jump started, etc., etc., etc. Well, I got a question for you, and I'm not going to quote the overall amount of the budget. I believe it's somewhere in the vicinity of let's just call it I take that back. It's approximately $6 to $7 trillion. That's what our budget is, and approximately 40% of the budget is discretionary spending. So what that means is that the budget must take into consideration the other 60%, which is non-discretionary spending. In that category are things like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, things of that nature, and they account for quite a bit of the budget. Now, the other 40% is where the Republicans and the Democrats consistently argue, fuss, and fight about. But when you talk about the overall budget, we are operating at a deficit. Now, true, the deficit has come down tremendously under President Obama over the past 8 years. But he was still operating at a deficit. So there's a couple of things that you may want to keep your eye on. First and foremost, the debt ceiling is going to be a major subject approximately March to April. And they are going to have to pass a debt ceiling increase. Now, I say have to because if they don't, then the United States will basically be in a position to default on its debt. And I don't believe they're going to let that happen. Now, that's going to be difficult. So let me give you, number one, what's going on. First, Mr. Trump wants to increase the Defense Department's budget by $54 billion with a B dollars. Now, that's a lot of money. And my question is, does the Defense Department need it? I can go a lot of ways with this, but let me start off with, why have we not been able to audit the Defense Department? The Pentagon itself has acknowledged that it knows of $525 million in fraud that they found when they weren't even looking. I wonder how much fraud and waste they can find in the Pentagon if they actually take a good look, actually do an audit. It could be two, and I'm being conservative, it could be at least 2 times that amount, which is $1 billion. It could be 4 times that. We have no idea. And we, the American taxpayers, deserve and have the right to know what the hell is going on with the Defense Department and where they're spending this money, and if they are spending this money wisely. In every other department, Republicans scream blue murder about waste and fraud and how they need to gear back on the monies that are going out towards social programs that actually benefit the people. I don't know a single citizen in this country that's benefited by the purchase of, excuse me, a bullet, a bomb, a jet, or an aircraft carrier. None of those things are paying your rent, paying your mortgage, putting food on your tables, or educating your kids, or providing you with health care. Now, people are going to say, well, we need to be safe. And they are absolutely right. But my question is this. We spend $600 million annually on defense, which is more than the next 9 countries combined. The number 2 country as far as this defense spending is concerned is Saudi Arabia at approximately $225 million. And they can afford it. They're sitting on oil left, right, up, and down. The big elephant in the room is Russia. They spend less than $100 billion a year on defense. Yet everybody's so worried about them, okay? They plan their incursions to various countries. They do whatever they want to do, and they get it done for less than $100 billion a year. And we're spending 6. Once you get down below Russia, it drops down dramatically, okay? So why are we spending all this money? We do not have to have the ability to fight every war on every continent in every country at the same time. We're supposed to be trying to get out of these wars. So you would think that we need to spend less money, not more. But it's always been a Republican mantra that you can never spend enough money on defense. Well, in my opinion, yes, you can. And at the present time, yes, we are spending too much money on defense. But again, that's just my opinion. Now, the Republicans, to their credit, have said that the increase in the defense budget must be offset by cuts other places. So that means $54 billion is going to come out of discretionary programs in things such as the State Department of Foreign Aid. But let me stop right there. Donald Trump talked about cutting foreign aid to countries, and maybe not, that's a good thing. But there's one country that's not going to see a cut. That's the nation of Israel. We had committed to them $38 billion over the next 7 years, and Mr. Trump has stated that he's a full and firm supporter of Israel. So they see no cuts. So that means everybody else that we provide foreign aid to is going to get screwed even more. Now, the State Department is also looking at cuts, and numbers being thrown around out there have those cuts at being approximately 30% of the State Department. Those cuts are so draconian that even the military people are screaming blue murder about making those cuts. The State Department's job is diplomacy. Translation, advocating for things that hopefully will keep us out of wars, keep us from being involved in the affairs of other countries, okay? And if you're going to cut the State Department budget that severely, basically what you're saying is you're no longer interested in diplomacy. You figure you can bomb, shoot, and nuke your way out of any situation that you're looking at. And that just ain't going to happen. Now, there are several other departments that are looking at cuts. And let me just take this all the way out into left field. The Department of Education is one of the departments that's looking at cuts. But Mr. Trump just stated the other day that he's looking at pumping in approximately $25 billion into the HBCUs over, I believe, the period is the next 7 years. Well, if he's going to pump that money or utilize that money just with the HBCUs alone, I think that's going to call for educational funding cuts across the board every place else. So that's grants, loans, etc. to various colleges, universities across the country. That's less grants for them, and I mean a lot less if you're going to pump up the monies going into the HBCUs. And again, I am all for the money going to the HBCUs because they've been woefully underfunded both federally and state-wise over the past 8 years. Thank you, President Obama. You're also looking at the EPA. They're talking about rolling back regulations, and I believe that Mr. Pruitt, who is the Secretary of the EPA, has on his agenda to completely gut it. But that's just my opinion. There are several other agencies out there that are being looked at to actually shut them down. Now, I mentioned the EPA, but what about the Department of Energy? Secretary Perry was one of the people during the primaries 8 years ago who stated that he was all in favor of shutting down the Department of Energy. So who better to put in charge as the Secretary of the Department of Energy than a person who wants to shut it down? You got Betsy DeVos, who wants to get rid of public schools. She wants to go to charter, choice, homeschooling, etc. She is not a fan of public schools. So she would have no problem with budget cuts that hit her area. You have Secretary Price of the Health and Human Resources Department, HHS. It's his job to help to get rid of Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act. If that can be accomplished, his department can take a nice, healthy cut. Now, you still don't get there just by hitting those departments. So guess what else you have to hit? Now, I mentioned State Department taking a 30% cut. I mentioned the EPA, Mr. Pruitt, being more than happy to shut that entire thing down. Department of Education, DeVos is, will be more than happy to stop funding public school education. Perry, again, no problem getting rid of the Department of Energy. Price, shooting down Health and Human Services. Zinke, I didn't mention, on Interior. The guy likes to go out and hunt and fish, but other than that, I'm not really sure where he is. So let me get to the other departments that you have to hit in order to get to that $54 billion reduction in discretionary spending. You could say bye-bye to the SBA. Linda McMahon will have a very short lifespan as far as being the director of the SBA, because they will more than likely want to take an axe to the SBA funding in this country. And last but not least, Dr. Ben Carson, again, he's going to go along with the program and not open his mouth one iota when HUD, Housing and Urban Development, takes a whack. So by doing all of that, you can get that $54 billion out that you need in order for the military to get everything that they need. Now, don't get me wrong. I do believe that we do need a military. I believe that it should be well equipped. I just think that there's so much fraud and waste in the Pentagon that if they actually went in there and used the same criteria that they're using to try to reduce funding to these other departments, I have no doubt in my mind that they could find billions, and I do mean billions with a B, of dollars of waste within the Defense Department. I'm not saying that they would find $54 billion worth, but I'm saying that they would find a lot. And then if we just sat down and took an even look at the Department of Defense, I'm pretty sure most of us will agree that they do not need to spend $600 billion a year in order to defend this country. They need that money so that somebody somewhere can make a decision they want to get involved militarily with something and have everything that they could dream about at their disposal. It just doesn't work like that, folks. But I digress. I did mention earlier that there's going to be a reckoning, and that reckoning is going to come approximately April 1st, let's call it. Their budget, they have to come up with a firm and complete health care policy. So they are either going to have to make a decision to fix the problems with the Affordable Care Act, or they are going to have to repeal it. None of the Republicans have the balls to say that they are just going to repeal this thing. That's political suicide. At the same time, they can't agree on a replacement plan. Now, with that being said, if they can't come to some type of an agreement on exactly what they're going to do, they cannot finalize a budget. They can't even halfway put a budget together. So let's just say that they kick the can down the road, which is what Trump already wants to do. He wants to kick it down to 218. That ain't going to happen. Let me tell you why. There are a few folks in the House of Representatives, and that's where all the appropriation bills originate, and then they are confirmed by the Senate. There are a few folks, like 50 of them, that are members of the Tea Party. And they could give a rat's ass about anything that is not physically responsible. And they have put the Affordable Care Act on their radar as their #1 target, and those people do not compromise. They have gone on record as stating that they will consider nothing else until the Affordable Care Act is history. Translation: nothing happens as far as the Affordable Care Act is concerned. These guys have stated that they will not vote for a debt ceiling increase. It might have really been fortunate, I guess, for Clinton that she didn't get elected in this, because unless she was able to come in with a majority in both the House and the Senate, there was going to be a war in the House that you would not believe. Now, the Democrats are going to sit on their hands on this one, and they're going to let the Republicans fight it out. They are not going to help Speaker Paul Ryan, and he more than likely is going to have to go to Pelosi to get the votes necessary in order to raise the debt ceiling. And if I read the Democrats the way I think I read them, the only way he's going to get those votes to raise the debt ceiling is if he backs off of trying to repeal the Affordable Care Act. How that one's going to go, I have no idea. None whatsoever. But that being said, over the next 90 days, it's going to be time to pay the piper as far as we are concerned, for the votes that we cast, putting these people into positions to dictate to us what's going to happen as far as our lives are concerned. Now, that bit of negativity can only be eclipsed by the gentleman on your right, Mr. Jefferson Beauregard Sessions. Now, I'm not even going to get into all of the lies that he told to the Judiciary Committee when he was going to be confirmed. I'm not getting into the lies that he told about being this great civil rights activist or proponent. I'm not going to get into the lies he told about not having any contact with the Russians, which, you know, bombshells have been dropped within the past 24 hours regarding that. Not getting into all of that. I am going to get into what he is doing and contemplating doing at the present time. Mr. Sessions has been in his position for what, 2-3 weeks? Well, he signaled exactly which way he's going to go. And the way that he's going is ultra conservative. He, being the Justice Department, have made statements and taken actions showing that they will no longer be party to lawsuits in defense of LGBT rights, voter suppression, and he will no longer look to enforce consent decrees against police departments in various cities throughout the country. He made that particular statement when he was addressing the National Association of Attorney Generals, which had representatives from all 50 states, telling them that we're just too hard on our police and we need to treat them better. And if we stop suing them, maybe things will get better for the citizens of this country. Nothing could be further from the truth. He just signaled to the police departments that they can act with impunity and they have nothing to worry about from the Department of Justice. There will be no federal investigations into wrongful deaths by the Justice Department. And we already know that local law enforcement has nothing to fear from its locally elected officials, its DAs, etc., because they're all in bed together. So I'm just hoping that the floodgates don't open up and all of a sudden you start seeing more and more wrongful killings by police, not just of black people and Hispanic people, but white people as well. And yeah, I said it because bad police don't just kill black people and Hispanic people. They kill a lot of white people too. Now, they may not be white people of means. They may be, pretty much down on the lower end of the economic ladder, but, they count too. And when I see a wrongful death, I get pissed off no matter who it is, because the police in this country have way too much power with way too little accountability. But let me tell you what Mr. Sessions does feel his attentions need to be focused on. He, of course, is going to focus on all the immigration laws, and he's going to make it his business to round up as many illegal residents of this country as humanly possible. And he knows that we don't have the facilities on a federal basis or even on a state and local basis to house all these people. So what did he do? He decided to instruct all of the agencies, FBI, etc., and the judiciaries, that he is now all for signing contracts with various private prison corporations. So he is going to open up the accessibility, the availability, the number of places that the illegal residents can be housed at when he rounds them up, the people that he's going to snatch up for a violation of the federal drug laws, specifically marijuana. He has stated that he is all for enforcing laws specifically regarding marijuana. Now, Mr. Sessions is acting holier than thou because the laws surrounding marijuana basically are both state and federal. And 60% of the people in this country are all for legalizing marijuana. And you have at least 25 states or more that have legalized marijuana in some form or another, either recreational use of marijuana or medicinal use of marijuana. Well, Mr. Sessions is not going to have any of that. And it's going to be a rude awakening for a lot of people when he starts going into the states that have actually legalized recreational marijuana and start shutting down marijuana dispensaries, arresting the owners and arresting anybody that they find in there purchasing or having purchased marijuana. And you know, it's a no-brainer. You're selling marijuana, you violated the federal laws, you're guilty under the federal law. It's going to turn into a firestorm. And there are a lot of people that are purchasing marijuana at this time. So he's going to need plenty of jail cells and prison facilities in order to meet the demand. And the supply, unlike normal businesses, have guaranteed incomes. If a private prison is not, I repeat, is not at approximately 80% capacity, the government has to pay a penalty. And you know damn well the government's not going to want to pay any type of a penalty, so that they're going to make it their business to make sure that those private prisons are operating at or near capacity, obviously at least over the 80% threshold numbers. So with all of that being said, let me just shut this down. It's going to get crazy, folks. It's going to get crazy. Donald Trump's budget, his numbers just don't add up. He knows it. Paul Ryan knows it. The Republicans know it. And now you know it. And as far as Jefferson Beauregard Sessions is concerned, people, if anything goes down and you feel that your rights were violated, we are on our own. We have to look to the NAACP, a Legal Defense Fund. We are going to have to look to the ACLU and various other legal aid associations throughout the country in order to try to get some justice, because Jefferson Beauregard Sessions just doesn't see it the way that we do. And I believe that he has a hard-on for damn near everybody that doesn't think like him. Again, just my opinion.